Deputies blocked. Their $3 million marina. Then I told Marsha the road was mine. I bought 8,000 acres outside the HOA because I wanted silence, not trouble. But when Cedar Hollow's $3 million marina traffic rolled across my deed like they owned it, I started pulling records. Marsha had a clipboard, a Lexus, and 15 years of bluff. I had one folder. Stay with me, because when deputies showed up at sunrise, that marina learned the road beneath it had a real owner. And if stories like this speak to you, subscribe and ride along for the next one. I never expected to see sheriff's deputies parked across the entrance of Cedar Hollow Marina at sunrise. Not on Lake Heritage weekend. Not with boat trailers already lined up along the gravel road. Not with families carrying coolers, retirees rolling in on golf carts, and marina employees unlocking fuel pumps like it was any other Saturday morning on Kentucky Lake. For about 5 minutes, everything looked normal. The lake was bright behind the docks. Gasoline hung sharp in the air near the fuel station. A kid in a red life jacket dragged a tackle box behind his father. Somewhere near the store, somebody laughed too loud for that early in the morning. Then 2 county trucks rolled in and stopped side by side across the entrance road. That laugh died first. Then the engines started cutting off. One by one, people stepped out of their vehicles and stared at the deputies like the law had fallen out of the sky for no reason. Deputy Noah Briggs got out of the first truck and set orange cones across the gravel. Another deputy opened a folder and checked a map against the survey stakes planted along the shoulder. Nobody knew what they were looking at. Most of them thought Cedar Hollow Marina belonged to Cedar Hollow Estates HOA. They had been told that for years. The marina was on every brochure, every welcome packet, every summer newsletter. $3 million of docks, slips, storage sheds, fuel pumps, and lakefront pride. But pride does not move a property line. I stood 20 yards off the road, beside an old barbed wire fence, my boots in the dust, coffee in one hand, folder in the other. I had been there since before sunrise, watching the day wake up around a mistake that had been buried longer than some of those boats had been paid off. A man in a bass boat leaned out his truck window and shouted, "What's going on?" Noah did not answer right away. He kept his voice low with the other deputy, pointed once at the map, then once at the orange stakes. That made people nervous. Paperwork always does when it shows up before breakfast. Then I heard tires hit gravel too fast. A white Lexus came around the bend like it had been fired from a gun. It skidded to a stop near the deputies, throwing dust across the road. The door opened before the engine even settled. Marsha Ellison stepped out wearing a cream blazer, sunglasses, and the kind of fury people get when a room stops obeying them. She had her phone in one hand and a clipboard in the other. Of course she did. Marsha had been president of Cedar Hollow Estates HOA for 11 years, long enough to make people forget where the rules ended, and her voice began. She moved through that crowd like she owned every truck, every dock, every gallon of gas in the pumps. "What is this?" she snapped, crossing toward Deputy Briggs. "You cannot block this road. This road serves the entire community." Noah looked at her with the patience of a man who had already read the file. "Ma'am, we're here for a civil standby." "I don't care what you're here for," she said. "You are disrupting access to private property." I took a slow sip of coffee. That was the first time she noticed me. Her head turned sharply. Even behind the sunglasses, I could feel her eyes lock onto the folder in my hand. Her mouth tightened, and for half a second the anger changed into something else. Worry. Then she buried it. She marched toward me, heels striking gravel hard enough to sound personal. "Caleb Turner," she said, loud enough for the crowd to hear. "Tell them to move those barricades." I looked at her, then at the road, then at the boats stacked behind the cones. Why would I do that? Her nostrils flared, Because you are interfering with Marina operations. I agree. That stopped her for a breath. A little hope flashed across her face. She thought I had finally surrendered. Or maybe she thought the sight of 24 angry boat owners had scared me into common sense. Then I finished the sentence. That's exactly why nobody should be driving across mine. The crowd shifted. One man lowered his coffee cup. A woman near a golf cart whispered, "What did he say?" Marsha's face changed completely. "This marina belongs to Cedar Hollow Estates," she said. "The marina may be yours, Marsha," I said, "but the road is mine." For the first time that morning, the entire entrance went still. Not quiet. Still. There is a difference. Quiet means people have nothing to say. Still means they just realized every word matters now. Marsha pointed toward the lake with her clipboard. That road has been used by residents for 15 years. So has the wind, I said. You don't own that either. A few people looked down, not laughing, just trying not to react. Marsha heard it anyway. Her jaw clenched. "This is harassment," she said. "This is retaliation. You cannot wake up one morning and shut down a community amenity because of some personal grudge." Noah stepped forward before I answered. He opened the county folder and held the survey map where she could see it. "Ma'am," he said, calm and flat, "according to the recorded deed and the current boundary survey, this access corridor appears to be located on private property owned by Mr. Turner." Marsha did not look at the map. That told me plenty. People who know they are right usually look at the proof. People who know they are exposed look at the audience. And Marsha looked at the crowd. "This is a misunderstanding," she said quickly. "Our attorney has already addressed this." Deputy Briggs nodded. "Do you have the recorded easement with you?" Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. A boat owner near the back called, "Marsha, what easement?" She turned on him like he had betrayed her personally. "This is being handled." Handled. That was one of her favorite words. It meant stop asking questions. It meant trust the board. It meant ordinary residents did not need to see what the people in charge had already decided. But this time, nobody moved on. The deputies stayed in place. The cones stayed in place. The road stayed blocked. And the orange survey stakes along the shoulder stood there like little flags marking the edge of a lie. I watched Marsha try to rebuild control with posture alone. She squared her shoulders, lifted the clipboard, tilted her chin, all the old tools. They had worked on retirees afraid of fines. They had worked on families worried about liens. They had worked on new homeowners who thought HOA letterhead carried the weight of law. They did not work on a deed. "Caleb," she said, lowering her voice now, trying a different weapon. "Think carefully about what you're doing. You are affecting families. You are affecting property values. You are affecting a marina this community has supported for years." "I thought about it for 45 days, I said. "I gave your board a chance to show the document." Her sunglasses hid her eyes, but not the small twitch in her cheek. "What document?" "The one that gives Cedar Hollow Estates the legal right to run marina traffic across my ranch." Behind her, the whispers started again, stronger this time. A man in a navy Cedar Hollow marina shirt stood near the fuel pump gate, his keys still in his hand. A retired couple in a golf cart stared at Marsha like they were seeing the shape of her for the first time. A contractor with a trailer full of dock lumber folded his arms and waited. Marsha hated waiting. She turned back to Deputy Briggs. "Officer, this road is essential access." Noah nodded. "Essential and legal are not the same thing, ma'am." That landed harder than anything I had said. Her hand tightened around the clipboard. For a second, I saw the morning from her side. The crowded road. The deputies, the residents, the boats, the $3 million Marina sitting beyond a gate she could not open with confidence anymore. Then her eyes came back to me. "You planned this," she said. "No," I said. "You ignored it." The words hung between us. A breeze moved off the lake and pushed dust against the cones. Somewhere behind the crowd, a truck door shut. Nobody spoke. I thought of my wife, Laura, then. Not because she had anything to do with Cedar Hollow or Marsha Ellison or that Marina Road. She would have hated this kind of public mess. She used to tell me I could make a room nervous just by getting too quiet. She was right. I had bought 8,000 acres to get away from noise like this. I had wanted cattle, timber, lake water, and mornings where the loudest thing was a gate chain sliding through my hand. Instead, I had found an HOA running a marina across my land and calling it tradition. Marsha leaned closer. "This is not over." "No," I said. "It's finally starting." Deputy Briggs glanced toward the growing line of trucks, then back at his map. "Until this access issue is resolved through proper legal documentation," he said, "no marina traffic is crossing this corridor today." That was when the crowd truly understood. Not all of it. Not the history. Not the missing easement. Not the expired agreement. Not the email Marsha had buried years earlier. But they understood enough. The road was closed. The marina was trapped behind it. And for the first time in 15 years, Cedar Hollow Estates had to answer one simple question in front of everyone. Why would a whole marina depend on a road the HOA did not own? 6 months earlier, I did not know Cedar Hollow Marina existed. I was standing in a title office with a pen in my hand, staring at a stack of documents thick enough to bend the table. Deeds, parcel maps, tax records, environmental notes, fence descriptions, water rights summaries, easement schedules. Every page had my name somewhere on it, and every signature pulled me farther away from the life I used to have. My wife, Laura, had been gone 11 months. Cancer took her slowly, then all at once. After the funeral, the house we built together became too quiet in the wrong way. Every room had something of hers in it. A mug near the sink, a folded quilt on the chair, a pair of garden gloves by the back door I could not bring myself to move. People told me not to make big decisions while grieving. They were probably right. But grief does not always ask permission. So I bought land. 8,000 acres outside the reach of Cedar Hollow Estates, HOA. Pine ridges, creek bottoms, open pasture, a private dam, timber trails, old cattle ponds, and lake coves tucked so deep into the shore that the wind barely touched them. It was rough country, not polished. Fence wire sagged in places. The north barn needed a roof. The dam gate had not been serviced in years. But it was mine. And more important, it was quiet. No HOA meetings. No architectural review. No letter taped to my door telling me what color a grown man's mailbox ought to be. That part mattered to me more than I admitted out loud. The closing agent slid the final folder toward me and said, "Mr. Turner, this one is the full deed description and access summary." I read every line. That was habit. I spent 30 years investigating insurance claims, and claims taught me that trouble usually hides in the part people skim. One wrong date, one missing signature, one boundary note nobody bothered to understand. Small print becomes expensive when the ground underneath it starts moving. Most of the file looked clean. The ranch had been assembled over decades by the Whitcomb family, then held in a trust after the last brother died. No active covenants, no HOA attachment, no subdivision restrictions. Utility easements were listed. Mineral reservations were disclosed. Water rights were old, but recorded. Then I saw the road, a narrow gravel corridor crossing the eastern edge of the ranch, described inside my parcel boundary. It ran toward Kentucky Lake. then curved near a marina basin marked on an adjacent plat. I tapped the page. What's this road used for? The closing agent looked over her glasses. Looks like old ranch access. Possibly logging before that. The title search did not show a recorded access easement burdening your parcel. None? Not in the commitment. That answer should have stayed louder in my head. But at the time it was just one line inside a mountain of paper. Large properties have old roads. Ranches carry scars from every owner who came before. Wagon cuts, timber paths, utility lanes, cattle tracks. I made a note in the margin and kept signing. When the keys finally landed in my palm, they felt heavier than metal. I drove straight to the ranch that afternoon. The main gate sat off a 2-lane county road, steel frame rusted red along the hinges, chain looped through a weathered post. I unlocked it, pushed it open, and listened to the sound travel through the fence line. Beyond it, the ranch rolled west under a hard blue sky, quiet enough that I could hear cattle moving somewhere beyond the cottonwoods. For the first time in almost a year, I breathed without feeling like the house was watching me. I spent the first weeks learning the land. At sunrise, I drove pasture roads with coffee in a thermos and a county map folded on the passenger seat. I found a stone foundation half swallowed by grass. I found a windmill that still turned if the gust hit right. I found the private dam at the South Creek, concrete stained dark with age, water pressing against it with patient weight. That dam made me stop. Laura would have loved that spot. Not because it was pretty, though it was, but because it was useful. She always liked useful things. A gate that held, a roof that did not leak, a fence that knew its job. I stood there that morning with my hand on the old control wheel and promised myself I would fix what needed fixing and leave the rest alone. That promise lasted until I reached the eastern boundary. The first sign was dust. Not ranch dust, not cattle dust. Traffic dust. I saw it rising beyond a stand of cedar trees, steady and pale, like a road crew was working somewhere I had not approved. I drove toward it and came out along a gravel lane wider and better maintained than any ranch road I had crossed so far. A golf cart rolled past me. The driver waved like I was the one visiting. Then came a pickup pulling a boat trailer. Then another. Then a fuel truck with Cedar Hollow Marina printed on the side. All of them moved down that road with complete confidence, heading toward the lake as if my deed did not exist. I pulled over near an old fence corner and unfolded the map. The road under my tires matched the corridor in the deed description. It crossed my land. Not near my land. Not beside it. Across it. I sat there with the engine idling, watching a line of vehicles disappear toward a marina I had never visited, and felt the quiet I had bought start to shift. At the time, I still thought it might be simple. Maybe the title company missed something. Maybe the easement was recorded under an older parcel number. Maybe the HOA had paperwork I had not seen. Maybe. Then a black and gold sign appeared at the bend ahead. Cedar Hollow Marina, members only. The sign was bolted into treated posts set in clean gravel, with flower beds around the base and fresh mulch tucked around the edges. It looked permanent. It looked official. It also appeared to be standing on my side of the line. I got out of the truck and took my first photograph. I did not know it then, but that picture was the first page of the file that would one day stop a $3 million marina at sunrise. The road looked harmless when I signed the deed. By the time the dust settled across my boots that morning, I understood something different. That harmless ranch road was carrying the HOA's entire marina business. I stayed parked near that fence corner for almost 20 minutes, watching the traffic count itself for me. 3 boat trailers, 2 golf carts, 1 fuel truck, a landscaping crew with rakes strapped to a flatbed. Then a security cart with Cedar Hollow Estates stamped on the side, moving slow like it was patrolling a border. My border. I took photographs of the sign, the road, the flower beds, the tire tracks, and the old cedar post where my boundary marker leaned half-buried in grass. I did not confront anyone. I did not block the road. I knew better than to start a land fight with emotion. Land fights are won by records. I had just folded the map and set it back on the passenger seat when a white Lexus rolled up behind me and stopped on the gravel shoulder. The driver waited 3 seconds before stepping out. That told me she wanted me to turn first. I did not. The door shut with a soft, expensive sound, and then her heels clicked over gravel like she was walking across a courthouse hallway instead of a ranch road. She wore a pale blue blazer, dark sunglasses, and a smile polished smooth enough to hide teeth. "You must be Caleb Turner." I turned then. "That's right." She offered her hand. Marsha Ellison, president of Cedar Hollow Estates, HOA. Her grip was firm, too firm, a person trying to establish rank before conversation. "I wondered when we'd meet," she said, glancing past me toward the road. "Big property you bought." "Big enough?" Her smile moved, but her eyes stayed still behind the glasses. I imagine the seller explained the access situation. There it was. Not hello, not welcome. Access. What situation? "The Marina corridor," she said, like the words were already settled law. "It's always served the community." A bass boat rattled by behind her, trailer chains clinking. Neither of us moved until it passed. "Does the community own it?" I asked. Marsha's smile held, but only because she forced it to. "The marina is a central amenity for Cedar Hollow Estates." That wasn't my question. She tilted her head, softening her voice. "Mr. Turner, I don't want us to begin on the wrong foot. This community depends on that road. Families use it. Emergency vehicles use it. Service crews use it. It has functioned that way for years. Who owns it?" The question sat between us like a locked gate. For the first time, she looked away. Not long. Just enough to let me know the answer was not one she wanted to say out loud. "The board considers access long established," she said. "That still isn't ownership." Her mouth tightened. A small thing, but I caught it. People like Marsha Ellison build whole kingdoms on small things nobody catches. She reached into the leather folder under her arm and handed me a glossy welcome packet. Cedar Hollow Estates in gold script across the front. Inside were marina photos, event schedules, maps, community guidelines, lake safety rules, and smiling families standing in front of docks I had just watched traffic roll toward. One map showed the marina road drawn in thick blue like it belonged to the HOA. No parcel lines, no easement note, no owner listed. Just blue ink pretending to be fact. "You're welcome to attend our next board meeting," Marsha said. "We like to keep communication open with adjacent landowners." Adjacent, another careful word. I looked at the map, then back at her. "You know this road is inside my deed." The smile finally cracked. Only for a second. "I know there are sometimes misunderstandings after large transfers," she said. "Old land descriptions can be confusing. Not usually to the person who paid for the survey." Her shoulders stiffened. A golf cart slowed near us. 2 women inside watched without pretending otherwise. Marsha noticed them, and the public version of her returned immediately. "Well," she said brighter, "I'm sure we can avoid unnecessary friction." "Depends on what you call unnecessary." Her jaw shifted. "Putting up fences, blocking residents, disturbing established traffic. That sort of thing. I haven't done any of that. I'm glad to hear it. But I am going to verify the records." That sentence did more damage than an argument would have. Marsha slid her sunglasses down just enough for me to see her eyes. They were sharp and pale, and for the first time the welcome act disappeared. "Mr. Turner," she said quietly, "I would be careful about creating panic over paperwork." The words landed wrong, too specific, too practiced. I looked at her for a long second. Paperwork is usually what prevents panic. She put the sunglasses back in place. "Enjoy your ranch," she said. Then she walked back to the Lexus without another word. The engine started, the tires turned, and she pulled away toward the Marina Road like she had every right to be there. I stood in the dust holding the welcome packet. Most people would have thrown it in the truck and forgotten about it. I opened it again. On the second page, under a photograph of sunset over the docks, one sentence was printed in clean blue letters. "Cedar Hollow Marina offers permanent private access to all HOA members in good standing." Permanent. That word changed the weight of the packet in my hand. Because Marsha had just spent 10 minutes avoiding the one thing that could make that sentence true: a recorded right. I took the packet home and laid it on my kitchen table beside the deed. Then I opened a new folder, wrote Cedar Hollow Road on the tab, and placed the first photographs inside. The Lexus, the sign, the blue map, the permanent access promise. Marsha thought she had come to welcome me. She had really come to see whether I knew what I owned. And by the time she drove away, I knew something about her too. She was not afraid I would misunderstand the road. She was afraid I would understand it perfectly. 3 days after Marsha drove away, Cedar Hollow stopped pretending this was neighborly. I was headed toward the eastern corridor before noon, checking runoff after a night of hard rain. Water had cut shallow lines through the gravel shoulder, and if that road was inside my boundary, then damage on it was my problem whether I liked it or not. Halfway down the road, a black utility cart pulled across both lanes and stopped. The man behind the wheel wore a Cedar Hollow Marina security shirt. He was young, maybe 25, with a radio on his belt and the uncomfortable look of somebody enforcing words he had not written. He stepped out and lifted one hand. "Morning, sir. Members only beyond this point." I let the truck idle. "Say that again." He glanced toward the marina, then back at me. "This access road is restricted to Cedar Hollow members and authorized marina traffic." I looked past him at the gravel under his boots. My gravel. The same corridor in my deed. The same road Marsha had refused to identify by ownership. "You're telling me I need HOA permission to drive across my own ranch?" His face changed. Not defiant. Worried. "Sir, I just follow policy." "Whose policy?" "Cedar Hollow Estates." There it was, plain enough to put in a file. I took my phone from the console and started recording. Not hidden, not dramatic. Just open, steady, legal. "What's your name?" He shifted. "Brent." "Brent, did Marsha Ellison tell you to block me?" "I was instructed not to allow non-members through." "Even the landowner?" He swallowed. "I don't know anything about that." "I do." I put the truck in gear and eased around the cart slow enough that he had plenty of time to move. He did. I continued down the road, but the anger came with me, hot under the ribs and held there. Being challenged by a neighbor is one thing. Being stopped on your own land by a hired shirt repeating HOA policy is another. By the time I reached the marina entrance, 2 more signs had appeared since my last visit. Cedar Hollow Marina members only. Private community access. Unauthorized vehicles subject to removal. They were planted beside fresh mulch and decorative stone, neat enough that somebody had paid a crew to install them. I photographed each sign from the road, from the shoulder, and from the old fence marker behind the ditch. Then I photographed the tire tracks. Fuel trucks had been cutting wide at the curve and chewing the road edge into mud. Boat trailers had left deep grooves near the low spot. One corner had started washing toward the creek. For years they had used this corridor like infrastructure, but nobody had asked who carried the liability when it failed. That afternoon, the first certified letter arrived. The return address read, Cedar Hollow Estates Homeowners Association. I opened it at the kitchen table with my deed folder beside me. The letter was 2 pages, printed on thick paper, full of polished words pretending to be law. It said my recently placed boundary markers were creating confusion and safety hazards for marina traffic. It said continued interference with established access could expose me to civil claims. It demanded that I remove all stakes, flags, markers, and obstructions near the marina corridor within 72 hours. Not one paragraph cited a recorded easement. Not one line named a deed book or page. Not one sentence explained why Cedar Hollow Estates had authority over land I owned. It only assumed they did. I called the number at the bottom. Marsha answered on the second ring, like she had been waiting. Caleb, she said, I assume you received the board's notice. I did. Good. Then you understand the seriousness. I understand you sent me a demand letter without attaching the document that gives you the right to demand anything. Her tone cooled. The road has served this community for 15 years. You've said that before. Because it matters. Then send me the recorded easement. Silence. I let it sit. Finally, she said, the board considers the matter settled. Settled by what instrument? Another pause. Mr. Turner, I am not going to be cross-examined over the phone. I'm not cross-examining you. I'm asking for one document. You are creating instability. No, Marsha. I'm identifying it. Her breath sharpened through the receiver. You have no idea how many families depend on that marina. I'm starting to. You should be careful. That was the second time she had said something like that. Not angry. Not loud. Careful. I looked across the kitchen at the folder I had started. The photographs were already stacked inside. The sign, the blue map, the Lexus, the security cart, the tire damage, the welcome packet promising permanent access. I am being careful, I said. That's why I'm documenting everything. She hung up. The next morning, I found 3 of my orange marker flags pulled from the shoulder and tossed into the ditch. That changed the file from concern to evidence. I photographed them exactly where they lay. Mud on the plastic, boot print beside one flag, fresh drag marks in wet gravel. Then I set them back where they belonged and drove into town for a trail camera, 2 lockable post boxes, and a weatherproof notebook. By sunset, I had 1 camera on the old cedar post, 1 near the curve, and 1 facing the marina sign. Each recorded the road, the shoulder, and any vehicle that stopped near my markers. I was not blocking anyone. I was watching. That mattered. 2 days later, a county cruiser rolled up while I was replacing a marker near the ditch. Deputy Noah Briggs stepped out, calm, professional, 1 hand resting on his belt. Mr. Turner? That's me. We got a complaint about a property dispute affecting marina traffic. I looked past him. Marsha's white Lexus sat 200 yards down the road, half hidden near the marina entrance. Of course. Noah followed my eyes and gave the smallest sigh. She called it in, I asked. She reported unsafe obstructions and possible interference with community access. I handed him a copy of my deed page and the title summary I kept in the truck. No obstruction. Boundary markers. My property line. He read quietly. Then he looked toward the stakes. Then toward the road. This is going to be civil, he said. I figured. My advice is don't block the road until a court or proper legal review sorts it out. I haven't blocked it. He nodded. I can see that. Then he looked again at the marina signs and the fresh landscaping around them. Do they have an easement? That's what I asked. And? They sent me a letter instead. Noah closed the folder and handed it back. I'll note that in my report. As he drove away, Marsha's Lexus remained where it was. She did not come talk to me. She just watched. That told me she still believed pressure would do what paperwork could not. I stood beside the ditch with mud on my boots, a deed in my hand, and a camera blinking red on the cedar post behind me. The anger was still there, but now it had shape. If Cedar Hollow Estates wanted to treat my land like theirs, then I was going to build the kind of record they could not talk around. Every sign, every letter, every patrol, every missing marker, every threat dressed up as community concern. Because if the matter was truly settled, Marsha Ellison should have been able to produce one recorded document, and the harder she avoided it, the more certain I became that document did not exist. The next morning, I drove into town with my deed, title report, the HOA letter, and a notebook full of dates. I did not go angry. Anger makes a man read too fast, and the county records office is not a place for fast reading. It sits behind the old courthouse, brick walls, narrow windows, floors polished by generations of people trying to prove where one piece of land ended and another began. The air smelled like dust, toner, and old paper. I have always trusted that smell more than a board president's smile. The clerk at the counter looked up from her screen. Can I help you? I hope so, I said. I'm looking for anything recorded against a road crossing my ranch near Cedar Hollow Marina. She gave me the look clerks give when they know the day just got complicated. Parcel number? I slid the title sheet across the counter. Her name tag read Janice Porter. Janice studied the number, typed for a while, then asked, This the Turner Ranch? That's right. She looked at me over her glasses. That road has caused questions before. That was the first new fact of the day. What kind of questions? The kind people ask when they already know they should have filed something. She did not smile when she said it. Janice started pulling records. Current deed, old deed, trust transfer, subdivision plat for Cedar Hollow Estates, marina development filings, utility maps, easement index, road maintenance records. The stack grew slowly, page by page, until the counter between us looked like somebody had taken the county apart and laid the bones out flat. The first hour showed what I already knew. My deed included the eastern corridor. Cedar Hollow Estates' plat stopped short of it. The marina parcel existed separately near the lake basin. No HOA covenant touched my ranch. Then Janice found the first surprise. Here, she said, turning a monitor toward me. Proposed access easement. Filed with planning 11 years ago. The scanned document showed the road, the marina, and a legal description drafted for permanent ingress and egress across what was then neighboring ranch property. The survey was detailed. The signatures were not. The owner line was blank. The recording stamp was missing. The file had a planning number, not a deed book reference. Was it ever completed? I asked. Janice clicked through 3 screens, checked the index, then shook her head. I don't see a recorded instrument. Could it be under an older parcel? Could be. But it should cross-reference here. It did not. The road in that document looked like a bridge halfway built across a river, stopping in midair where a signature should have been. Then the second surprise came out of an archived folder. Temporary Construction Access Agreement. Janice printed it and handed it to me. The agreement allowed Marina contractors to use the ranch road during expansion of dock storage, fuel service, and shoreline reinforcement. It was signed by a prior ranch trustee and the Marina developer. The purpose was narrow. The term was clear: 18 months. I turned to the final page. Expired 7 years ago. Not terminated. Not converted. Not extended. Expired. I read that date twice. Janice watched my face. "That's not permanent access," I said. "No," she said. "It is not." I laid the temporary agreement beside the proposed permanent easement. One was unfinished. The other was dead. For 15 years, Cedar Hollow Estates had treated that road like community infrastructure. Yet the records in front of me showed a proposed right that never got signed and a temporary right that had expired before some residents ever bought their homes. That moved the problem out of rumor and into paper. Janice pulled one more file, older and thinner than the others. "Marina Expansion Review," she said. "This might matter." Inside were permits, contractor notes, drainage comments, and a traffic impact memo. Most of it was routine. Then one line stopped me. "Access to marina facilities to be maintained through existing private road corridor, pending final easement recordation." Pending. That word was a loaded gun if somebody ignored it long enough. "Final easement recordation," I said. Janice nodded. "And we have not found one." A cold feeling moved through me. Not fear. Not yet. Recognition. I had seen this kind of thing in insurance work. A temporary arrangement becomes habit. Habit becomes assumption. Assumption gets printed in brochures. Then one day, everybody acts shocked when the paper underneath it is missing. I asked Janice for certified copies. She printed the proposed easement file, the temporary construction agreement, the Marina Expansion Review, and the subdivision plat showing Cedar Hollow Estates stopping before the road. Each page came out warm from the machine. Each stamp hit the paper with a heavy little thud. By late afternoon, I carried the stack to my truck. Outside, wind pushed dust across the courthouse steps. I sat behind the wheel and spread the documents across the passenger seat, lining them up in the order a judge would care about, not the order Marsha would prefer. Deed, plat, proposed easement, expired temporary agreement, planning memo, HOA demand letter. One story came from Marsha's mouth. The other came from the county. They could not both be true. Before starting the engine, I called the title company. The representative pulled my file and confirmed what the commitment had already said. "No recorded marina access easement was identified as an exception to your title, Mr. Turner." "Say that again." She did, slower. "No recorded marina access easement was identified." That sentence settled over the truck cab like a verdict that had not yet been spoken in court. I drove home with the certified copies beside me and the eastern road waiting beyond the ranch gate. By sundown, I had added every page to the Cedar Hollow Road folder. The file was thick now. Not thick enough to win. Not yet. But thick enough to prove this was no misunderstanding. A permanent easement had been planned and never recorded. A temporary agreement had expired 7 years ago. And Cedar Hollow Estates had spent all that time selling certainty where the records showed doubt. The road problem was no longer a road problem. It was a buried mistake. And buried mistakes have a way of rising when somebody finally starts digging. The courthouse records gave me enough to worry. They did not give me enough to act. Paper could show what had been filed and what had not. But land still had to be measured under the sky, where fences lean, roads drift, and people start believing gravel belongs to whoever drives over it longest. So I called Eli Mercer. Eli was not the kind of surveyor who sold comfort. He was 71, sun-browned, narrow-eyed, and had spent most of his life arguing with bad maps on behalf of people who later wished they had listened sooner. He showed up 2 mornings later in an old green pickup with survey rods, GPS equipment, and a thermos strapped into the passenger seat like it had seniority. He looked at the Cedar Hollow Road folder on my kitchen table for less than 10 minutes. Then he said, "Somebody built a business on a maybe." That was the most dangerous sentence I had heard so far. We started at the eastern fence corner, the same spot where Marsha had first smiled at me. Eli set his tripod in the dirt, checked the old monument marker, then walked the road with the slow patience of a man reading a confession written in gravel. I followed behind him with the deed map folded under my arm. Traffic kept passing. Boat trailers, golf carts, a marina maintenance van, 2 residents in a silver pickup who slowed when they saw Eli's equipment. By noon, the first orange stake went into the shoulder, then another, then another. Each stake made the road look less like Cedar Hollows and more like what it was, a private corridor cut through my ranch. A security cart stopped near us around 2. Brent was driving again, the same young guard who had blocked me days earlier. He looked at the stakes, then at me. "Mr. Turner, I was told nobody could place markers here without HOA authorization." Eli did not look up from his instrument. I said, "This is a licensed survey." Brent shifted in the seat. "Mrs. Ellison said markers create safety confusion." Eli finally raised his head. "You know what creates safety confusion?" he said. "People not knowing where they are." Brent did not answer. He drove off slowly, already reaching for his radio. 20 minutes later, Marsha arrived. White Lexus, same controlled stop, same clipboard. This time, no smile. She stepped onto the road and pointed at the orange stakes. "Remove those immediately." Eli glanced at me. "This her?" "That's her." Marsha's eyes cut to him. "And you are?" "Eli Mercer. Licensed surveyor. State registration number is on every report I file. This is HOA managed access." "No, ma'am," Eli said, tapping the old map against his leg. "This is land. Management is what people say after they lose the deed." Her face tightened. "You have no authority to interfere with established traffic." "I'm not interfering. I'm measuring. You are creating confusion for residents." Eli planted another stake without looking at her. "No, ma'am. I'm creating clarity." That one landed hard. Marsha turned to me. "Caleb, this is reckless." Reckless was sending security to block me without proof. "You are escalating. I asked for an easement. The board attorney is reviewing the matter. Then tell him to send it." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You have no idea what you are threatening." I looked past her toward the Marina Road. A fuel truck was waiting now, driver watching through the windshield. Behind it, 2 trucks with boat trailers had slowed to a crawl. "I'm not threatening anything," I said. "I'm finding out what's true." "For your sake," she said. "You better hope truth is enough." She walked back to the Lexus and left the dust hanging behind her. Eli watched her go. "She knows," he said. I looked at him. "Knows what?" "That she does not have what you asked for." The survey took 4 days. Eli checked old iron pins, fence calls, creek references, GPS coordinates, county plats, and the deed description from my closing package. He found where the old ranch road had widened over time. He found where landscaping crews had pushed decorative stone past the shoulder. He found where Marina signs stood inside my boundary by more than 30 feet. On the last afternoon, he spread the final map across my dining room table and placed one finger on the road. "The entire access corridor sits inside your parcel." "All of it?" "All of it." "And the easement?" I found proposed language. I found the expired temporary agreement you gave me. I found utility permissions near the lower bend. But a permanent recorded Marina access easement? No. I sat back and let the words settle. No. A small word, heavy as a gate. Eli slid the report toward me. You need a lawyer before you touch that road. I figured. You need the right lawyer. That was how I met Rachel Boone. Her office sat above a hardware store in town. 1 flight of stairs, 3 rooms, no marble, no nonsense. Rachel was in her mid-40s, hair pinned back, sleeves rolled up, eyes that moved across documents like she was listening for lies between the lines. She read the deed first, then the plat, then the proposed easement, then the expired temporary agreement, then Eli's survey, then Marsha's letter. She did not speak for nearly 15 minutes. When she finally looked up, her expression was not excited. It was careful. Caleb, she said, they don't just have an access problem. I waited. They have a disclosure problem. The room went quiet. Rachel tapped the welcome packet Marsha had handed me, the one promising permanent private access to HOA members. If residents bought homes, Marina memberships, or financing based on permanent access, and the board knew that access was never properly recorded, this becomes bigger than your road. How much bigger? Buyers, lenders, insurers, appraisals, Marina valuation, board liability, maybe developer liability, depending on who knew what and when. I thought of the families at the docks, retirees in golf carts, kids with tackle boxes, people who had spent life savings buying into a promise that might have been printed over an empty space in the record. I don't want to hurt the residents, I said. Rachel nodded once. Then give the board one clean chance to tell the truth. And if they don't? She closed the folder. Then we make the truth impossible to ignore. That night, I drove back through the ranch gate with Eli's orange stakes glowing along the eastern road in my headlights. They looked small out there against 8,000 acres of dark pasture. Small but exact. For the first time since Marsha's Lexus rolled up beside me, I felt the balance shift. The HOA still had the Marina. Marsha still had the board. Residents still had 15 years of assumptions. But I had the deed, the courthouse records, Eli's survey, and Rachel Boone's warning sitting on my passenger seat. If Cedar Hollow Estates had sold people permanent access without securing it, then the road was only the surface. The real damage was buried deeper. And now I knew where to dig next. Rachel Boone did not file anything in court first. That mattered. She said judges like clean hands, and landowners who start reasonable usually finish stronger. So instead of shutting the road down or sending a threat dressed up like revenge, she drafted a certified notice that was almost painfully fair. It listed the facts. My deed included the eastern access corridor. Eli Mercer's licensed survey confirmed the full road sat inside my 8,000-acre parcel. County records showed a proposed permanent Marina easement that was never recorded. The only signed access agreement we had found was temporary, tied to construction, and expired 7 years earlier. Then Rachel gave Cedar Hollow Estates 45 days. Produce the recorded easement. Negotiate written access. Or stop using my road. When I read the letter at her office, I looked up from the page. That's it? That's it, Rachel said. No demand for damages? Not yet. No injunction? Not yet. You're giving them room. I'm giving them rope, she said. There's a difference. I mailed the notice from the post office myself. Certified, return receipt, 1 copy to the HOA board, 1 to Marsha Ellison directly, 1 to their property management company. Rachel sent another set from her office with every exhibit attached. The green cards came back signed 3 days later. Marsha's signature was sharp and slanted, like even her pen had been angry. Then nothing happened. For the first week, the road stayed busy. Boat trailers kept rolling through. Fuel trucks crossed like nothing had changed. Marina security still patrolled the corridor, but my cameras showed more stopping now, more slow drives, more people looking at the orange survey stakes. On the 9th day, 2 stakes disappeared. On the 10th, one of the Cedar Hollow signs had been moved 10 feet farther from the shoulder, like somebody thought shifting it quietly would rewrite the map. On the 12th, a landscaping crew planted shrubs around the marina entrance, covering the old fence marker Eli had flagged in pink ribbon. I sent every photograph to Rachel. She replied with one sentence. Keep letting them build the record. That was harder than it sounds. Every time a truck rolled over that road, I felt the weight of it. Not just gravel under tires, but years of assumption pressing against my deed. I thought of Laura then, more often than I expected. She used to say my calm looked like patience from the outside, but inside it was usually math. She was right. I was counting. Day 15 brought the first public move. A Cedar Hollow Estates newsletter appeared in my mailbox, though I was not a member and had never asked for their mail. Across the front was a photo of the marina and a headline in blue letters, Protecting Our Lake Heritage. Marsha's message filled the first page. She wrote about outside pressure, community stability, historical access, and irresponsible parties trying to disrupt family traditions. She did not use my name, but she did not have to. Everyone knew who had bought the ranch. What she did not mention was the missing easement. I took the newsletter to Rachel. She read it once and slid it into the file. Public narrative, she said. That means she's worried about private facts. By day 21, the first resident came to my gate. His name was Frank Dawson. He was in his late 60s, retired school principal, with a careful voice and the tired eyes of a man who had attended too many meetings where nobody answered the question asked. He parked outside the ranch gate and waited with both hands visible on his steering wheel until I walked over. You Caleb Turner? That's me. I live in Cedar Hollow. Lot 38. Been there 11 years. I nodded. He looked down the road toward the marina corridor. Is it true? Depends what she told you. He gave a dry laugh. That you're trying to destroy the marina because you don't like the HOA. No. That you're demanding $1 million for access? No. That you bought the ranch knowing you could trap us? I let that one sit. I bought the ranch because my wife died, and I wanted quiet. Frank's face changed. The rumors had not included that part. I opened the gate and handed him a copy of the survey summary Rachel had approved for residents. Frank read it standing in the dust. His mouth tightened halfway down the page. No recorded permanent easement found, he said quietly. That's what we found. He looked toward the lake. When we bought, the agent told us marina access was permanent. I believe you. My appraisal mentioned it. I believe that too. He folded the paper with more care than most people give a document. Board meeting is Thursday. I'm not a member. No, he said. But I am. Thursday night, I did not go inside the Cedar Hollow clubhouse. Rachel told me not to. Let residents ask resident questions, she said. A board president can dismiss an outsider. It is harder to dismiss the people paying dues. Frank called me afterward from the parking lot. His voice was low. She dodged it. What did you ask? I asked if Cedar Hollow had a recorded easement for the Marina Road. And? She said we have always had access. I waited. Frank said, so I asked again. I could hear car doors closing behind him. Voices. Anger, scattered and nervous. What happened? She said the board attorney was reviewing historical rights. Then she accused me of helping you. That's not an answer. No, Frank said. So I told her that. The next morning, Rachel received Cedar Hollow's official response. It was 4 pages long and said almost nothing. Historical use, community reliance, 15 years of open access, substantial investment, property value dependence, potential damages caused by disruption, no deed book, no page number, no recorded easement. Rachel laid it on her desk beside our certified notice and tapped the blank space where proof should have been. This is their answer, she said. It's not an answer. That's the point. She pulled out a calendar and circled the 45th day in red ink. Lake Heritage Weekend. I stared at the date. That's the Marina's biggest weekend. I know. You think they'll wait that long? Rachel looked at me over the calendar. I think Marsha will keep pretending right up until pretending costs more than truth. That night, my camera caught Marsha's Lexus stopped at the eastern corridor after dark. She stood near the moved sign with a flashlight, talking to someone I could not see clearly. The audio was mostly wind, but one sentence came through. We cannot let him control the road. I saved the clip. By then, the whole thing had shifted. At first, Marsha had treated me like a confused new owner, then like an inconvenience, then like a threat. Now she was treating the truth itself like an enemy. And for the first time, Cedar Hollow residents were starting to ask the same question I had asked from the beginning. If they really had permanent access, why was Marsha giving speeches instead of showing the document? Lake Heritage Weekend arrived with the kind of morning Cedar Hollow liked to put on brochures. The lake was silver at sunrise. Boat trailers rolled in before 7. Vendors unloaded coolers and folding tables near the Marina store. A man in a straw hat stacked bags of ice by the fuel dock, while kids in life jackets chased each other between parked trucks. It should have been ordinary. That was the problem. For 15 years, ordinary had been built on a road nobody had bothered to secure. I arrived before the crowd got thick. Rachel Boone was already there, standing beside her dark SUV with a file box on the hood. Eli Mercer leaned against his green pickup, survey map rolled under one arm, orange vest half-zipped over his shirt. Sheriff Wade Collins pulled in at 6:42. He was a broad man with gray at the temples and the calm face of somebody who had learned not to believe the loudest person first. Deputy Noah Briggs followed behind him in a second truck. Sheriff Collins stepped out and shook my hand. Mr. Turner. Sheriff. He looked down the corridor toward the Marina. You understand what happens once we set those cones? I do. This is a civil standby. We are not deciding title. We're here to prevent trouble while documented ownership is enforced pending legal resolution. Rachel handed him the packet. Deed, certified survey, county records, 45-day notice, receipt cards, and their response. He reviewed the top pages without rushing. Then he looked at me. You gave them a chance, more than one. He nodded to Noah. At 7:05, the first cone went down. At 7:08, the second deputy parked sideways across the lane. At 7:10, Cedar Hollow Marina stopped functioning like it owned the morning. The first truck in line was pulling a blue fishing boat. The driver leaned out, confused. Road closed. Noah kept his voice even. Temporary access restriction. Please remain parked while we sort traffic. Within minutes, the line backed up. Golf carts stopped. Trucks idled. The smell of diesel and lake gas thickened over the gravel. People stepped out and started asking each other questions nobody could answer. Then the marina manager, Dale Whitcomb, came fast across the parking area with keys in one hand. Caleb, he said, stopping short of the cones. What are you doing? I'm enforcing my road. Dale looked like he had not slept. I've got fuel delivery at 8. I've got slip holders waiting. I've got vendors paid. I know. You know what this costs? I looked past him at the docks, the polished boats, the storage sheds, the fuel tanks, the sign promising members-only access. Yes, I said. That's why your board should have answered Rachel's letter. Dale's eyes flicked to Rachel, then the deputies. Before he could say more, a white Lexus came around the bend too fast. Marsha Ellison braked hard enough to throw gravel against the shoulder. She got out with her phone already raised and her clipboard clutched to her chest like armor. "What is going on?" she snapped. Noah stepped forward. "Ma'am, access through this corridor is restricted pending documentation of legal access rights." "This is absurd," she said. "This is a public safety issue. This road serves the entire community." Sheriff Collins answered this time. "It appears to cross private property. It has always served the community. That is not the same thing." Her face tightened, but she turned away from him and pointed at me. "You cannot shut down our marina." I stood beside the old fence line, the same place where this had started, coffee cooling in my hand. "I'm not shutting down your marina, Marsha." "Then move the barricades." "The marina is yours," I said. "The road is not." People heard it. A hush moved through the line of trucks. Not complete silence yet. More like the first crack before ice gives way. Marsha shifted into the voice she used at board meetings. Smooth, projected, built for people already trained to nod. Cedar Hollow residents have relied on this access for 15 years. Families purchased homes here based on that reliance. The marina is a community amenity, and this kind of unilateral action is irresponsible. Rachel opened the file box. "Mrs. Ellison," she said, "you received a certified notice 45 days ago requesting a recorded easement, deeded access right, or written agreement. Did you bring one today?" Marsha did not look at her. "The board attorney is handling that," Sheriff Collins asked. "Do you have the document with you?" Marsha's mouth opened, but the old confidence did not come out. Behind her, Frank Dawson stepped from the crowd. He held one of Rachel's copied survey summaries in his hand. "Marsha," he said carefully, "is there actually a recorded easement?" She turned on him. "Frank, this is not the time. It feels like exactly the time." A murmur passed through the residents. Marsha's grip tightened around the clipboard. "We have always had access." Frank stared at her for one long second. That wasn't the question. That was when the morning changed. The anger in the crowd stopped pointing at me. It turned, slowly and heavily, toward her. A boat owner near the cones called out, "Were we told this was permanent or not?" Another voice followed. "My closing packet said marina access." Dale Whitcomb looked at Marsha now too. Not angry yet. Afraid. Sheriff Collins lifted one hand. "Everyone stay calm." Nobody moved. Rachel placed the survey map on the hood of her SUV and weighted the corners with folders. Eli stepped beside it and pointed to the marked corridor. "This is the road," he said. "This is Mr. Turner's boundary. The entire corridor falls inside his parcel." Marsha shook her head. "That is one interpretation." Eli looked at her. "No, ma'am. It is a measurement." The silence finally arrived. Real silence. The kind that makes a clipboard feel small. Marsha looked from the sheriff to Rachel, from Rachel to the residents, then to me. "You planned this humiliation." "No," I said. "I planned a legal notice. You planned to ignore it." Her face flushed. For a moment, I thought she might finally produce something. A paper, a number, a name, anything. Instead, she said, "This community will remember what you did today." I looked at the blocked road, the stalled boats, the families waiting beside coolers, the residents holding copies of a truth they should have been given years ago. "No, Marsha," I said. "They're going to remember what you didn't." And that was before Rachel opened the second folder, the one Marsha had no idea we had found. She saw it the moment Rachel's hand touched the tab. Not fear exactly. Fear is too honest. What crossed Marsha Ellison's face was calculation breaking apart in public. Her eyes moved from the folder to Rachel, then to Sheriff Wade Collins, then to the residents gathered behind the cones. Rachel did not rush. She lifted out the first document and handed copies to Deputy Noah Briggs and Sheriff Collins. "This is the temporary construction access agreement recorded during the Marina expansion," she said. It allowed limited contractor access across what is now Mr. Turner's property. Term, 18 months. Eli Mercer stepped beside the map and pointed to the corridor. "That term expired 7 years ago." A murmur moved through the crowd. Marsha snapped, "Temporary agreements are common during development." "That proves nothing." Rachel nodded. "Correct. By itself, it proves only that temporary access existed and ended." Then she placed the second document on the hood of her SUV. "This is the proposed permanent easement package." Frank Dawson leaned closer. Dale Whitcomb stood near the fuel gate, his keys hanging loose in his hand now. Rachel continued. "Survey prepared, legal description drafted, planning file opened, but no owner signature, no recording stamp, no deed book, no page number." Sheriff Collins looked at Marsha. "Do you dispute that?" Marsha's lips pressed into a white line. "Our attorney would need to review the complete file." "He had 45 days, Rachel said. A boat owner in the back muttered. "We all had 45 days and nobody told us." That one reached the crowd faster than anything legal could. Marsha turned toward them. "The board has acted in the best interest of this community." Frank's voice cut through, steady but sharper than before. "Did the board know?" Marsha ignored him. Rachel did not. She opened the second folder fully. This next document came from an archived Marina finance packet provided through records request. It includes correspondence between board officers and the Marina Development Committee after the developer sale. Marsha stepped forward. "That is internal board communication." Rachel looked at her. "It is communication concerning a claimed property right over land my client owns." Sheriff Collins raised one hand. "Let her finish." Rachel lifted one page. The paper was not dramatic. No red stamp, no heavy seal. Just an old email printed in black ink, the kind of thing people write quickly and regret slowly. Rachel read the subject line first. "Marina Road access status." The crowd went still. The email is from former HOA Treasurer Alan Reed to Marsha Ellison and 2 board members. Date, 8 years ago. Marsha's face did not move, but her hand tightened on the clipboard. Rachel read the key line. "We never finalized recorded access after the developer sale." Nobody spoke. The lake kept moving behind the docks, soft against pilings, like it had no idea $3 million of confidence had just cracked open on the gravel. Rachel lowered the page and lifted the next one. "This is Mrs. Ellison's reply," Marsha said. "That was taken out of context." Rachel looked at her. "It is one sentence." Then she read it. "Do not create panic over paperwork." The words landed harder than shouting. For a second, even the idling trucks seemed quiet. Frank Dawson stared at Marsha like he was trying to recognize a neighbor inside the woman standing there. "You knew," he said. Marsha turned on him, voice tight. "I knew there were routine record questions. That does not mean access was invalid." "You knew," Frank repeated. Dale Whitcomb stepped forward now, pale under his Marina cap. Marsha, I signed fuel contracts based on that road. I renewed slip agreements based on that road. She pointed at Rachel. This is a coordinated attack. No, Rachel said. This is a documented timeline. She laid the pages in order on the hood. Temporary agreement. Expiration date. Proposed permanent easement. No recording stamp. Treasurer warning. Marsha's reply. Certified notice. HOA response with no easement attached. Each page was simple. Together, they were a wall. A woman near the front, holding a cooler bag, spoke with a shaking voice. Our realtor told us Marina access was permanent. Another man said, our appraisal had it listed as a community amenity. Someone else asked, were dues used to improve a road we didn't own? The questions began spreading faster than Marsha could answer. That was the power shift. Not when deputies blocked the road. Not when I said it was mine. Right there, when the crowd realized I was not the threat to their Marina. The lie was. Marsha tried one more time to take control. Everyone needs to calm down and let the board handle this. Frank laughed once. Not happy, not amused, hurt. The board did handle it, he said. That's why we're standing here. Sheriff Collins stepped between the crowd and Marsha before the anger got too close. Folks, this is still a civil matter. No one is deciding damages here today. But based on the documents provided, this roadway is not open for Marina traffic without proper legal authority or agreement. A contractor behind the second truck cursed under his breath and walked back to his cab. A family began unloading their cooler from a golf cart. The festival was ending before it began. Marsha looked at me then. All the polished authority had drained from her face, leaving something smaller and meaner underneath. You have no idea what you've done. I looked at the residents holding copied surveys and printed emails. I looked at Frank, who had trusted her for years. I looked at Dale, suddenly understanding that his Marina operation had been balancing on a missing signature. I know exactly what I did, I said. I asked for the document. She had no answer. That was the sound I had been waiting for since the day she smiled beside my fence line. No threat, no speech, no community reliance, just silence. Rachel gathered the originals back into the folder and handed Sheriff Collins a copy set for his report. Eli rolled up the survey map. Deputy Briggs began directing vehicles away from the blocked road. Within 20 minutes, the entrance that had been buzzing with festival traffic felt like a courtroom after the verdict. People left slowly, not defeated by me, defeated by what had been hidden from them. Frank was the last resident to approach before I left. He held the printed email in one hand. I owe you an apology, he said. No, you don't. Yes, he said. I believed the story because it was easier than asking for proof. I did not know what to say to that, so I said the truth. Most people do. He looked toward Marsha's Lexus, still parked near the shoulder. She sat inside now, phone pressed to her ear, windows up, alone inside her own damage. Frank folded the email. This is bigger than the road. Yes, I said. He nodded slowly. Then I guess we start asking bigger questions. I watched him walk back toward the residence, and for the first time that morning, I felt no anger. Only the weight of what came next. Because if Marsha had buried the missing easement for years, then every sale, every appraisal, every Marina fee, every promise of permanent access might have been built on the same silence. And silence, once broken in public, does not go quietly back into the folder. The week after Lake Heritage Weekend, Cedar Hollow Estates stopped sounding like a neighborhood and started sounding like a deposition. Residents demanded meeting minutes. Marina members asked for copies of access records. Lenders called title companies. Insurance agents started reviewing coverage for the fuel dock, storage sheds, and Marina road liability. Dale Whitcomb sent the board a written notice that he could not keep operating fuel deliveries across a disputed private corridor without legal clearance. For the first time in 15 years, Marsha Ellison could not control the room with a clipboard. The emergency HOA meeting happened the following Thursday. I did not attend. Rachel Boone told me not to. Let them ask their own questions, she said. You already gave them the documents. Frank Dawson called me afterward. His voice sounded tired, but steady. She resigned. I stood in my kitchen with the phone against my ear, looking at the Cedar Hollow Road folder on the table. Marsha? Effective immediately, Frank said. She read a statement about protecting the community from hostile outside pressure. Nobody clapped. That told me enough. The new board hired outside counsel within a week. Not Marsha's usual HOA attorney, a real property firm from Nashville with surveyors, title specialists, and enough caution to know when confidence had become expensive. Their first letter to Rachel was different. No threats, no speeches, no historical use sermon, just a request to negotiate temporary emergency access while they studied alternatives. Rachel read it and nodded. Now they are speaking like people who know documents matter. We agreed to limited emergency access first. Fire, ambulance, law enforcement, dam maintenance, and essential safety vehicles only. Written terms, insurance requirements, indemnity language, exact route, exact duration. No marina traffic, no fuel trucks, no boat trailers. Everything Marsha should have done years earlier, the new board now did in black ink. Then came the harder part. The marina needed a new road. Engineers studied 3 options. One crossed wetlands and died on permit review. One ran too close to a slope above the cove and cost more than the marina could justify. The third cut through land Cedar Hollow, actually owned behind the maintenance yard. It was ugly, expensive, slow, but it was legal. I watched the construction from my side of the fence months later. Bulldozers pushed red dirt. Survey flags snapped in the wind. Gravel trucks lined up on the HOA side where they belonged. No one crossed my ranch without written permission. That should not have felt like victory. But it did. Not because the community suffered. I never wanted that. Most of those people had done nothing except trust the wrong person with the wrong paperwork. They had bought homes, paid dues, launched boats, and believed the story printed in blue ink. The victory was that the story finally had to match the record. Frank came by one afternoon near the end of construction. He brought a folder under his arm and stood outside my gate until I waved him in. Board approved a disclosure packet, he said. Every future buyer gets the road history, marina access terms, and new route documents. That was needed. He nodded. We also voted to reimburse part of the marina assessment reserve. Some folks are still mad. Some are embarrassed. Most just want it done right. He looked down the old gravel corridor, quiet now except for wind moving through the grass. I spent 11 years driving that road, he said. Never once wondered who owned it. Most people don't. Maybe we should. That was the closest thing to justice I heard from anyone at Cedar Hollow. The new Marina Road opened in late fall. No ribbon ceremony. No speeches from Marsha. No glossy newsletter promising permanent access without proof. Just trucks moving along a route the HOA actually controlled, under an agreement their attorney could defend. The old corridor went still. The tire grooves slowly hardened. Grass started growing along the shoulder where boat trailers used to cut wide. The decorative marina sign came down. Eli Mercer's orange stakes were gone by then, replaced with proper boundary posts set deep and straight. On the last evening before winter, I drove out to the eastern road alone. The lake was low and dark beyond the trees. Cattle moved along the fence line. Water tapped softly against stone near the old dam. For the first time since I had bought the ranch, that side of the property sounded like land again instead of traffic. I carried one sign in the bed of my truck. No big warning, no threat, no victory message, just white metal with black letters. Private Ranch Road. Written permission required. I bolted it to a cedar post near the entrance and stepped back. For a while, I just stood there. I thought about Laura, how she would have told me to stop staring at a sign like it was going to talk back. How she would have been glad I did not let anger make me cruel. How she would have understood that peace is not always given back quietly. Sometimes you have to prove where the line is before anyone respects it. Marsha Ellison never apologized. I did not need her to. The county records said what mattered. The survey said what mattered. The new road said what mattered. Every resident who now received a real disclosure packet said what mattered. Cedar Hollow kept its marina. I kept my ranch. And the lie lost its road.
A clipboard can scare people for years, but the deeds only had to speak once. What this whole mess taught me is simple. If something matters, get it in writing and read it before trouble starts. Caleb did not sell his ranch by yelling louder than the HOA. He sold it by slowing down, pulling the records, respecting the clerk, and giving people a fair chance to tell the truth. That's not dramatic in the way movies make things dramatic, but in real life, that is how a man protects what is his without losing who is he. There is dignity in standing still when others expect to fall. There is strength in keeping your temper, saving every letter, and letting the facts do the talking. And there is something deeply American about a quiet piece of land, a fence line, a deed, and a man who refused to let assumption become ownership. So let me ask you this. If you were in Caleb's booth, would you have stood your ground the same way? Type yes in the comments if you would have rejected the road, or type no if you think you would have tried to avoid the fight. And if stories like this speak to you, story about land, justice, quiet courage, and ordinary people holding the line, go ahead and subscribe. No pressure, just stay close for the next HOA brand story.